Well, hello there, Kansas City. Stephen St. John here with another episode of Hot Mic with SSJ. And before we get started, I want to thank our man Patrick Carter of Farmers Insurance. You can go to kcfarmersagent.com or you can text Hot Mic, HOTMIC, to the number 913-248-8861 and get more information about how Patrick Carter of Farmers Insurance can help you out. And of course, Patrick, a loyal viewer and listener of Hot Mic with SSJ. Don't fucking hold that against him. All right, now we have an episode that I'm looking forward to. That man, if you had told me this was going to be one of the guests and one of the topics a couple of months ago when we started this, I'd have said you are full of shit. And so we have Todd Lebo.
Oh,
who's here again? Look at you.
Are you full of shit about to be on here?
You are full of shit.
I was going to say,
right.
Speaking of full of shit.
That's right. But now we have Doug Goldstein, who's going to be a guest today, and we're going to kind of like a slow build of who Doug is and why he's here. First of all, if you listen to the Border Patrol on Sports Radio 810 WHB Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m., you know that one of the tremendous sponsors and partners of my show and of Sports Radio 810 is Window Nation. And so that's how Doug and I met. We invited Doug out to a Chiefs game, the Chiefs and Broncos Sunday night football game, representing Window Nation. And so let's just start there. Thank you to Window Nation, and tell people what you do with Window Nation.
Yeah, I'm a sales manager here in Kansas City for Window Nation. Best window company that I've ever seen. I've worked for a lot of them. And so they brought me into Kansas City to be their new sales manager.
That's exactly right. And you can get a house of windows for $99 a month. You got to check out Window Nation. They're great people like Doug. I have a few windows from Window Nation that have been installed in my home, and pretty soon all the windows in my home will be from Window Nation. And so in preparation to have you out as a guest at the game, our head sales guy, Mr. Sandy Cohen, he has many titles, and I will not repeat all of them, but he's one of the bosses.
We call him Big Boss Man.
Yeah, Big Boss Man Sandy Cohen. He says, you're not going to believe this, but the gentleman that we have coming out from Window Nation, because everyone knows, and you know, don't fuck with me in this thing.
I'm not fucking with you.
What's my favorite band?
Guns N' Roses.
And I take it too far sometimes.
Yes.
But you know this.
Yes.
You'll go over the years.
Always loved Guns N' Roses.
That's right. And so he says he was the manager of Guns N' Roses for 17 years.
And Steven said, you're a fucking liar.
You're a fucking liar. Don't fucking tell me that shit. Because people like to fuck with me around here, Doug.
Sure,
this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm gullible when it comes to certain things. Like, I love Elvis. Mm-hmm. You know, I love Guns N' Roses. I love Jack White. I love Canelo Alvarez. I'm a former boxer. I love certain things that just, you know, the Rocky movies.
He can be led down the primrose path with
exactly
lies.
right. You know,
right. Yeah.
And so I said, I don't fucking believe it. But Sandy really doesn't jack with me too much. And so fast forward at the game when we meet, I said, okay, we just got to get this out in the open. Yeah. I don't know if they're fucking with me. I love Guns N' Roses. To my knowledge, I've seen them every time they've come to Kansas City. Were you really the manager? And then you start telling me stories, and man, this is working out. And so then later on, he said, did you Google it yet? I said, no. And but you know, I was waiting for a moment. And so I go and Google. I think the first thing that pops up is this picture of him and Axel Rose like in 1990. I'm like, son of a...
This guy's not lying to me.
Thank you so much for watching Hot Mic with SSJ. Thank you for listening to Hot Mic with SSJ. Of course, subscribe and watch us on YouTube and download the podcast wherever you download your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Hot Mic with SSJ is available everywhere. And I'd like to thank our good friend, the first sponsor of Hot Mic with SSJ, Patrick Carter from Farmers Insurance. Go to kcfarmersagent.com and click Contact Me, not me, but Patrick, to request a quote. You can also text Hot Mic, HOTMIC, to the number 913-248-8861. Choose a local agent that supports the same community you do. Don't choose Jake. Don't choose Flo. Choose to celebrate the holidays with Patrick Carter of Farmers Insurance. And so let me go through.
You know what's really funny is you had mentioned the first concert that you saw them at was...
At Arrowhead.
I thought you.
No. It was at Sandstone.
That's
So
right,
what is it
Sandstone.
now?
It doesn't matter what it is now.
Okay,
it's
it's
always
Sandstone, right.
Sandstone.
It's Sandstone.
You know what
That's
we're going
right.
to do? Window Nation Sandstone.
Window Nation.
There you go. That's right.
So that's the first time that I saw them was when they opened up for Aerosmith.
Correct.
And most of the people were there, and I was with my friend Andy Spivey. And so, and most of the people were there to see
Was Andy
Aerosmith.
Spivey an undersecretary to Dick Nixon?
Maybe,
That was
maybe
Lawrence
not.
Spivey what movie was that?
I'm there, and I was excited
Places.
to see Guns N' Roses,
Right.
and you can think back.
I'm not thinking
nobody.
back.
Did you
nobody.
say under Dick, by the way?
The undersecretary to Dick Nixon.
unbelievable.
Remember that?
Just
It was trading places.
But there's
Lord Spivey,
like
the Orange
there's-
Juice Report.
I think anyone that loves the band can remember the first time they see them.
The first
and it
time.
just fucking changes everything, right? And seeing Guns N' Roses on that tour before they were Guns N' Roses, hell, they were opening up for Aerosmith.
Yep.
After they were done, I was like, wow,
I'm gonna go home now.
I don't want to fucking watch Aerosmith. I want to watch more Guns N' Roses, and everything clicked. So you were take me back. You'd asked about that. So
Actually, the picture that you brought up was taken at Sandstone. There was myself and Slash. Slash was sitting on a bicycle, and Axel, and then a guy named John Kolodner, who was the A&R guy for Aerosmith. He's also famous for being the in the wedding dress of Aerosmith's "Dude Looks Like a Lady" video.
Ah.
Yeah, that's Big John.
Oh, see, there's all kinds of references like that you're going to love, and so, and I'm going to look through some of these damn pictures. Here's one.
Well, here's before we get deep into the pictures, how do you become the manager for Guns N' Roses?
Usually, I respond with "lost a bet." on that
Okay.
one, Todd. Yeah. No.
So what were you doing before that? And you were young.
I was young. Yeah, I was a bodyguard for Rolling Stones, The Who, Black Sabbath, Heart, Van Halen, David Lee Roth when he split Van Halen, and I was home.
Hold on here. Wait a minute. So you're a bodyguard for...
Yeah.
How did you start off as a bodyguard
Yeah.
for some of the biggest names in rock history?
My father was a martial arts instructor for San Diego Police Department, so I didn't have much of a choice. It was either get into martial arts or just get kicked in the head randomly. So I figured I'd join the crowd and start doing that.
So like you're like fresh out of high school, and you're like you get involved in the music biz.
Yeah, I started working concert security actually at age 14.
14?
There's that. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Where's that picture at?
That's on the airplane, the MGM Grand. Myself, Axel, and Slash, obviously talking business on the plane.
Business.
It was
Business.
business.
Okay, so did you decide I want to be a bodyguard,
or you just got the
or
music,
did someone offer you like, hey, you should be a bodyguard? What was your first gig as a bodyguard?
Yeah, so the first gig was actually with Air Supply doing On the Road.
They needed protection from.
Well,
Air Supply's good.
But Todd's right. It was the easiest security job in the world. Hey,
Even
Grandma,
the nights are better.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Hey, Grandma, pull the thorns off the roses before you throw them on stage. Hey, and leave them big panties on. We don't want to see them up on the stage.
Oh,
no. Yeah.
So that's just easy working, right?
I've
charge
worked
the automatic sprinklers somewhere.
That's right. I've worked 8 Super Bowls. I've worked 4 Olympics. So
you're basically in the security game.
Absolutely.
And once you get in that game, did you have a particular set of skills? Is this like a Liam Neeson or something where you could get involved with that? And then you just at that point you're just going gig to gig. You meet someone and you're
exactly.
You did that for how many years?
Wow. From the time I graduated college, I went on the road full time. But I'd worked my way through college and through high school.
You're from California?
Yeah,
Did
San
you go
Diego
to college in California?
No, went to college in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Flagstaff?
Yes, sir.
Northern Colorado? Oh, no, it's Northern Arizona.
Yes,
Northern Arizona.
That's right. Yeah.
Flagstaff. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So you went there, and so were you traveling the world doing this, or mostly working local gigs? Security?
When I was in college, I was working all the concerts in Phoenix and the big shows in L.A. And San Diego. And when the Stones would tour, I'd do like 20 dates around the West Coast.
So you went around the West Coast with the Stones.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this was 1980 Stones. Ron Wood was already in. This was like after
Steel Wheels.
Steel Wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your toughest gig as far as security? Like you said, Air Supply was an easy gig. What was the most difficult gig?
Most difficult doing security would have been probably the Van Halen days because it was crazy.
Still David Lee Roth?
Crazy. Yeah, with Dave. Yeah, exactly.
They're good Van Halen.
Absolutely,
Okay.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Yeah, me too. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I was.
I loved Hager. I loved Hager alone, by the way.
Right. Yeah. But
loved Hager alone, but
I'll say one shitty thing about Van Halen. In 1988, Monsters of Rock tour when that was Kingdom Come. Dokken, Metallica, Scorpions,
Yeah.
and Van Halen came to Arrowhead, Kansas City, and long ass fucking day, hot July, blah blah blah, all this crap, and then Van Halen. This was like maybe the second time around they'd been with David Lee Roth was gone, because that was 1985ish or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And they come out and they're like, I know it's been a long day, but we're gonna play all fucking night. And they played like 40 minutes, and like 20 of that was a fucking bass solo.
Yeah, right. Well,
so that made me mad. So I've never liked the Sammy Hagar part of it. But we did go watch them when they came back with David
Lee Roth, and almost fell out of the.
He almost fell over the balcony from our suite. But so I grew up on Van Halen. I love Van Halen, and there are some good David Lee Roth songs. But Sammy Hagar songs. Anyone who tells me that is superior to real David Lee Roth is crazy. So I imagine those concerts had to have been absolutely nuts, because those guys were pretty crazy.
They were really crazy.
And the fans were super crazy. That was the chicks and the da-da-da-da.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going to see David Lee Roth and he was solo when Poison opened up for him.
Just a Gigolo.
And that would have been 88 at Kemper Arena. And my mom loved David Lee Roth, so we went to that concert.
Just a Gigolo.
But no, that's this
Steve
must
Vai,
be just like living in paradise.
There you go.
Paid
That's
royalties for that.
Right.
Steve Vai playing guitar, I think.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. In fact, what I was is director of security, so I'd meet with the head of fire department, I'd meet with the head of police department, head of local security, and then when the band would arrive, I actually was in charge of security for Steve, generally. I can remember being in Oklahoma City, and we're walking through a mall.
At the Myriad Convention Center?
No, but this was an outdoor shopping mall.
Oh.
And with him and his wife Pia, and in Oklahoma, he kind of stood out.
Yeah, for sure.
And so a payphone,
wearing the lycra and everything.
Yeah, right, the spandex. So this local payphone was ringing. So I picked it up, and they said, "Won't you get that boy out of here before he's fucking killed?"
No.
I was like, "Hey, Steve, look at the time."
Hey, we got to go.
I don't know if you want to mention anyone individually. These questions I got to ask to pop my head. So, who was the most difficult person or rock star or band member to be to try to be security for, like the biggest asshole or someone that gave you fucking nonstop shit when you look back, like I never want to fucking work with that guy or for that guy again? Is there somebody that stands out that you just had nothing but bad experiences with?
Well, so the sober David Lee Roth is awesome.
Right.
The not sober David Lee Roth is a piece of shit. I mean, he'd throw kicks at me, and I told Eddie Anderson, his bodyguard, I was like, you know what? You don't pay me enough.
Wait, I mean, we're throwing kicks at you.
Yeah.
always kicking.
I don't know he does, but he's.
Well, he thinks he's a badass, and
Right.
he's not.
Right. So he's backstage.
No,
He's
in the
liquored
elevator.
up, or in the elevator.
I'm trying to get him up to his room safely, and Goldstein, he throw a kick at me. I was like, look, you're not paying me enough fucking money for this. I'll kill you.
And so if you wanted to, you could have
In a heartbeat.
ended that situation.
So some
right
of the
there.
guys are really nice, though, and then they understand your job is important. They treat you with respect.
Absolutely.
And that's you're like the real pros when you're dealing in that.
Outside of Guns N' Roses, okay, so same question, but on the other side, when you think back, who was just the best guy or best person you were ever around that you think back and you have really nothing but fond memories? Just somebody.
Russell Hitchcock, lead singer with Air Supply. No
really?
question.
Yeah.
No question. He's
He
one
wasn't
of the
kicking
nicest
you or
people.
anything?
No, never.
I remember he wore some very tight designer jeans back in the day.
Well, why
I
would
remember
you?
one time my mom was really upset because the lead singer from Air Supply fell off stage and broke his wrist.
Dude, okay.
I just remember these weird things. My mom loved Air Supply. So
Why wouldn't you?
You go through all these, and your security, and you're working for all these different
Did you
bands
work
and
for
stars.
security with Guns N' Roses? Is that how you met them?
Like,
How
did
I
you
started
end
as a
up?
tour manager.
Okay, just
Yeah.
tour managers.
So how did that start? How
Yeah.
did you become the tour manager for Guns N' Roses?
So last name's Goldstein, so I get a call from Barry Siegel and Richard Feldstein, and they say, "You Jewish bodyguard, you can't be a Jewish bodyguard." And,
You have to be a manager.
yeah, right.
to
So
get-
they said, "We want to introduce you to this band that nobody's heard of before." And they said, "What do you know about Guns N' Roses?"
What year is this? Around?
87. They had just released Appetite.
Right.
And I said, they said, "What do you know about Guns N' Roses?" I said, "Well, I'd never heard of them." I said, "Well, given my choice, I guess I'd rather have the end of a rose stuck in my face."
Right.
They said, "No, there's a band." So they sent me the tape, and I thought they had
He
two
did
lead
said
singers.
tape, everyone.
Yeah, I
There were
did say tape.
tapes.
That's right. It was
Okay,
just
do you
that.
allow
That was
kids?
Do you remember
tape.
what was on the tape? Do you remember?
Well,
what
it was
you heard?
Appetite.
It was
So
the
you heard
actual
Appetite.
title
Okay.
release.
Yeah. So
It
the
was-
first two tracks, I thought they had two different singers. I
Right.
said, well, that's unique, right? Because, I mean, you had this really deep voice and you had this really high voice.
Streamy
that way.
voice, yeah.
Yeah.
All I ever fucking do, by the way, is defend Axl Rose to people because they got so much
Me too.
bullshit that they want to say about him. But let's just start with the basics.
Yeah.
His fucking voice will bring tears to your eyes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like, so you listen to this, and right off the bat, you hear like, oh shit, this is different. Or do
very
you?
much
Like,
so.
right?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And so you hear this, and so then how quickly does it come together that you're the tour manager for Guns N' Roses?
Real quick, I went and met their manager at the time, a guy named Alan Niven, and English guy, at least so I thought. He was actually ends up to be Kiwi, New Zealander.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's foreigner. That's all we know.
yeah, exactly. He's not from here. Yeah. So got along with him, and he introduced me to the band. And I asked the band, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And they said, "The biggest band in the world." And I said, "When you pack your bags, you can't stay in L.A." So it became readily apparent really quickly that Niven and the lead singer Axel didn't get along. So I was offered $500,000 a year to move back with John Bon Jovi and be his year-round tour manager. And I was making $500 a week. So Niven caught wind of that and made me his partner like that because he knew he wouldn't be able to keep the band.
Right.
So, in fact,
he needed an ally to.
well, him and Axel hated
Yeah.
each other.
So he needed someone to bridge that.
But did you hit it off with the band right when you met them?
Particularly Axel.
So if you would take me, so when you first meet the band, maybe through the personalities, you said you hit it off with Axel.
Yeah.
Was he the only one you really dealt with, or the
No,
other?
Slash.
How did that work?
Slash really, him and I ended up handling the band's business.
Okay.
Slash and I did. Because Axel was just, I don't know, genius manic depressive, so he really couldn't get out of his own way. So I tried not to bother him too much with the day-to-day operation. Slash loves being involved in the business, and so
he's from the entertainment business.
Right.
His
exactly.
parents were involved.
His
and all
father
that,
was an
so-
album designer, and his mother was a clothing designer.
right. So he's kind of like in the game. I mean,
yeah.
Axel is from nowhere, Indiana. And just
West
kind of came
Lafayette,
he's
home of
just-
Purdue University.
That's
by the way,
right.
Todd.
Yeah, Boilermakers.
That's right. Yeah.
And well, before we go too far down, I think the best songs had a lot to do with Izzy Stradlin too, because
a lot of people think that.
I loved his involvement with the band, and apparently he's small town too. Same thing, right? They went to high school together or something.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. In fact, the big rumor is
being
that
in the biggest.
Izzy left West Lafayette to get away from Axel, and Axel chased him and found him. That's true.
And they make great music together.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to particularly go be the biggest band in the world.
He didn't.
likes
He wanted to be
making
the
songs.
biggest. Yeah, he wanted to be the biggest club band in the world.
Right, because
Izzy.
he liked that part of it. But I think one of the great things about Guns N' Roses is they went from literally nothing, fighting in the streets of L.A., right, Sunset Strip and all this crap, and they kind of didn't sell out and get too
At all,
commercial.
yeah.
And that's what I loved about them,
Yeah.
right? And they were able to do that, and they turned into the biggest band in the world, but they toured as an opener, and then they toured in stadiums, and so everywhere in the world. That music spread so fast, and it wasn't like today where some shit goes viral with a video. This had to spread on radio stations.
You need
and
to
crap.
chill the fuck out. You will get way too far ahead of everything. Let's go back.
I want to talk about getting
you
on the
listen
tours.
to Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appetite for Destruction, in my mind, is the greatest rock album of my life.
I would believe.
Okay, and most people won't, even if they're not huge Guns N' Roses fans, they won't argue against the significance of Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
So take me back to when it's released.
It's 2021, and you can turn the radio on in any city in America and listen for an hour, clicking around, and you will hear a song off of it. That means
True.
the shit's got staying power.
You knew what you had there, and so then take me back to when they first go on tour. This is getting released, and it's starting to blow up.
It's funny. I tell people all the time, it was kind of like the Partridge Family. We didn't realize how big we were until we came off the road, and people went, "Hey, you're the biggest band in the world." We went, "We are."
But you're just grinding on the road.
So,
You're doing work.
but what was the response when you were on that tour that I talked about that I went to? Say at Sandstone, you're opening up for Aerosmith. What was the vibe? Were you picking up like from the crowd reaction or anything else when you're on the road?
Yeah, I was actually telling Ben earlier that that Tim Collins with Aerosmith, he was famous for Steven Tyler called the lead singer and Joe Perry called the lead guitar player, and so they got us for a song. Right, we had already released "Sweet Child of Mine." "Sweet Child of Mine" was big at the time, and so they ended up paying us nothing. They did the same thing with Skid Row. They did the same thing with every opening act under Tim Collins. And so, we're touring and we're opening for Aerosmith, but quite honestly, unlike you, I was noticing that most of the fans were actually there to see us. A lot of them were leaving after we came off the stage.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I told you the story about how I remember taking my dad would always take me to see every Dirty Harry movie the first day it would come out, and we went to see the Deadpool, and Welcome to the Jungle was in it. And do you remember who played the rock star? Because in the movie,
I do.
I want to see if he remembers. So it's part of the movie is the guy is a rock singer.
Yeah,
and he's doing a video.
I know this answer.
He's lip syncing. He's lip syncing "Welcome to the Jungle," right? Yeah. But in the movie, he dies of a drug overdose.
Who is it? Tell
Jim
me.
Carrey.
That's right.
And so Jim Carrey. And so I'm telling my dad. During this, I love that's the band I love, and then they had a cameo when they were like on a ship firing.
Well, no, first at the opening sequence was at the cemetery.
Right. Okay.
And all of us were in that one. And, and then that night I was supposed to take everybody out to dinner, and Steven Adler no-showed me. And so later, I'm back in my room, and Izzy's banging on my door. Steven's dead, right? And so I literally have to run through the streets of San Francisco with a naked drummer over my shoulder to a ER. And
holy shit!
Yeah, he had overdosed.
Yeah.
And so
he did that. He was an issue there for him.
Yeah, you think? Yeah,
it's much more than really anybody in the band earlier.
Well,
right? That was their issue. They all partied.
Yeah,
right?
It's unfair because he got kicked out of Guns N' Roses for doing too many drugs. That's when you have a problem.
Yeah,
right?
if these are the guys who are doing that. So,
but Slash's drug use was at least as worse, if not. It's the difference
worse. It's what they think of drummers. Drummers aren't as important as guitarists. I guess that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. Well, when it came time to work, Slash stopped.
Right,
and so Steven didn't.
So you go out on tour with these guys. They get this gig, and you're the tour manager. Mm-hmm. When you come to Kansas City, and Aerosmith is probably at a 5-star hotel, what's it like for Guns N' Roses? Are they at Holiday Inn?
We may have stayed at a really nice hotel, but we would have been doubling up still at the time.
Still roommates.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you got roommates. I
always thought as a tour manager, nicer to stay in a nice hotel and double up than to
have your own room at a rat's nest.
Yeah.
So, and this is July 26, 1988, when Guns N' Roses played at Sandstone. That was the first time I saw them in Kansas.
So they're out. They're out there. Sandstone. What does Guns N' Roses make in a night to be the opening act in Kansas City?
For Aerosmith, wow. I don't remember exactly, but I'm guessing probably 5,000 a night.
So you got 5 guys in the band, and then you got how many people? Everyone's got a roadie, a tech, tour manager, security, da-da-da-da?
Yeah, some of the techs were doubling up because we didn't really have the money to spread around and for everybody to have their own guy.
What's your transportation from Kansas City to St. Louis?
Bus? Yeah.
Bus? You can pay the bus driver, da-da-da-da-da-da. You buying food and all this.
Fuel, tolls.
No one's getting rich in 1988 on the road.
No way. There's no money left over by the time we come home.
So when... this is the business shit I love about this. Back in the day, I've always heard these stories about fucking Dwayne Allman or something having just royalty checks piled up in his house because he forgets to cash them. When the checks go out from the record company to the band, I know whoever writes the song, owns the publishing or whatever, gets more money than the other guys. Where people in Guns N' Roses like on a salary. Axel and Slash writing the songs. Izzy wrote a lot of the songs. Were the checks coming in? Did they even know they were getting?
To be honest with you, most of the publishing was split pretty evenly.
That's a good way to keep a band together.
Absolutely,
right?
Sure.
But they're not. Those aren't getting Venmo'd in their accounts. They're showing up at someone's house. Do they even know that they're selling 1 million records yet when they're out there? I mean,
yeah, because those are milestones that you celebrate.
And the record company calls up, says, "You guys got your gold now." You're platinum
exactly,
now.
Yeah.
And then the money starts rolling, and that's when you start buying the cars and the shit like that?
Yeah. In fact, when Axel bought his big house in Latigo Canyon, Malibu, I told the business manager, I said, you know what, this is a bad idea, him buying this house. And so the business manager said, well, as long as you think so, I think so as well. And so we literally came up with a contract saying, we advise you not to buy this house because if it came back, right, I didn't want to be on
How'd you let me do this, you
exactly.
asshole?
That's right, yeah.
So so Appetite for Destruction, the tour with Aerosmith, and then after that,
and Motley.
And Motley Crue, right? And then GNR Lives is the next.
Thank you, yeah. That was my idea.
They ended up headlining at some point after.
We headlined actually on the doing theaters on the Appetite tour as well.
Eventually,
right.
So then,
yeah, sure.
And then you're not. Is it more money then?
Yeah, but not much.
Not much more.
Yeah, because you're playing theaters.
So
right,
GNR Lives you say was your idea.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So we're playing in Detroit, and I was there the year before with David Lee Roth, and there was a girl who, 14 years old at the time, and she was trying to get backstage any way she could. And so I told everybody in the crew, if I see, because I used to, on a pass, I'd put the person's initials who I gave it to. I said, if I see your initials on her chest on a pass, then first I'm going to kick your ass, and secondly, I'm going to put you on a Greyhound home.
Right.
She's underage. So next year I show up, and I'm with David Lee Roth, and I walk downstairs, first guy on the bus, and she's sitting next to the bus driver. And so I said, excuse me a second. I said, how did she get on here? And he goes, oh, we're old friends. I said, well, she's 15, so that's a fucking lie. I said, try again. And he goes, well, I know her parents. I said, that's lie number 2. I said, sweetheart, come out here with me. And so I said, if you tell me the truth. I said, first off, do you remember me? She said, yeah. I said, where from? She said, David Lee Roth. I said, good. I said, so if you tell me the truth, I'm going to give you my pass. Okay? Can't put you on my bus for insurance reasons. I said, however. So what did you do to get on the bus? And she said, well, I took care of the bus driver. So that's what I thought. I said, here's my pass. I'll see you at the show. So I walked on the bus, knocked out the bus driver, threw him off.
And you took care, and you really did take care of the bus driver then.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah,
right?
knocked his ass out.
So did you have to drive the bus then?
I had to drive the bus. Thank God, yeah.
That's a good idea. So you knocked the bus driver. Oh, fuck,
And so how did this lead to
now?
GNR Lies?
Yeah, so I'm getting to that. So so we play that show, and then after the show, we're walking, Axel and I are walking up the back ramp and about to get onto the bus. And a guy comes up, and he's a fan, and he's crying. He's all upset. He said, do you guys have a copy of Live Like a Suicide? And Axel said, no, why? He said, I have a number of bootlegs of your guys's, but the bootleggers here want like $400 for that EP, the original EP. And so Axel said, get his address, Doug, and send him a copy. And I was like, shit, I don't know where I'm going to find a copy, but okay. So now I finally get to drive, and I have to drive from Detroit to Giant Stadium, which is Giant Stadium, the Paradise City, the first half of that video.
Right, yeah.
So I get on the bus, and I start the bus up, and Axel comes out. I need to talk to you and Slash. Shit, okay. Or I have a full day, right? So we go into the back, and Axel says, what are we going to do about this? I said, about what? He goes, about these bootleggers. And I said, all right, so how many songs were on the original EP? He says, 5. I said, it's a no-brainer. Let's record 5 songs acoustically, put them out. Now you got 10 songs.
Now it's no longer a bootleg.
$9.99
Yeah.
instead of $400.
And this is called Patience. Used to love her.
Exactly. Yeah.
1 in a million?
Yeah,
Could be trouble today. You try to put 1 in a million out?
Yeah, you think? Yeah. It was trouble then.
It's trouble in.
Yeah.
So how did Patience come about?
I don't remember, quite honestly. Yeah, I don't remember.
So that's the most popular song.
Absolutely,
on that,
sure. Yeah.
Obviously.
In fact, a funny story. When I had Steven in rehab, we were supposed to play Dick Clark's American Music Awards, and so we're going to play Patience on that. And so I thought, oh shit, what are we going to do? So Axel calls because we don't have a drummer. I said, well, you did that Henley song. He goes, yeah. I said, how'd you get along with him? He said, we got along great. I said, good. He goes, well, call him and find out if he'll do it. So I called him, and he said, you send me the track. And back then, you couldn't send it electronically, so I had to call a messenger service. So he calls me about 2 hours later. He goes, fuck you guys. And I said, what? He goes, pick on the old guy. I said, I don't understand what's wrong. He goes, Doug, there's no drum track on Patience.
I was going to say, where are the drums on there?
Yeah. Then I started thinking of the video, and Stephen Adler drumming on a tambourine. Yeah.
And when you say Henley, you're talking about
Don Henley.
Don Henley.
For
those
the
that
Henley.
The Don
That'd be
Henley.
the Henley.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's pause right here with the rise of Guns N' Roses, because when I was talking to you at the Chiefs game, I was very interested to hear you defend Axel, because in the past, in the media and the fans, you would hear these stories, and I think what the narrative was painted was Axel was always a headache to deal with. He was always the one making the band late to come on stage. He was the guy that held people back. His creative process, where he was such a perfectionist, he would take people. It would in the studio, it was always very difficult to handle, right?
Yeah.
And I was very happy to hear that you said that a lot of that is a misconception.
Huge misconception.
Okay.
He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's just really shy. And I tell people that, and they go, oh, yeah, come on. I mean, he's out there singing, out to get me. How could he be shy? He's shy. So if I introduce you to him, he'd go, hi, really nice to meet you. But in terms of being late, his whole thought process on that was, people are paying a lot of money for their ticket. I have a 4-hour warm-up before I go on stage. If I squeak in one of my warm-ups, I'm going to start all over again, and because I want them to have the best show possible. I actually... it was difficult to deal with, right, when he's coming on stage 2.5 hours late sometimes, but I got it. I understood his mentality. My issue with him was he would never explain himself, and his
sounds a little OCD about the warm up and
very much so. Yeah. Well, he's genius manic depressive who didn't medicate back then. I look at him now and he's smiling and having a good time, and I go, chances are he's probably medicating. I can't speak to that because I don't work with him, but he looks like it to me.
Okay, so a couple of stories that I want to get the real, and you told me about these stories. Everyone from around here is always very. We always hear about the St. Louis story because he couldn't get back to the state of Missouri for a long time.
That's right. Yeah.
And
or at least to St. Louis.
Right. Well, the story goes at the St. Louis show.
And their sandstone. It's an outdoor thing, right?
Yeah, right.
And there was an and this is 30 years ago, unauthorized photographer that he saw taking pictures. Yeah. He didn't
Good luck
like
with
it.
that shit now. Everyone's got a phone,
He
right?
dives into the crowd, starts a fight, doesn't finish the show. People riot. But you say there, and obviously you would know, there's far more to that story.
Way more.
So can you tell us what happened? What was the real story at the St. Louis riot?
Kind of came to light for us after the riot, quite honestly. We didn't know who the guy was. But Axel does not like seeing any of his fans get manhandled. And so this guy, Stump, he was a biker who did security at that particular venue with all the guys. And so Axel's watching the guy go from the pavilion area in the grass, and he sees the guy start to make his way down into the seating section, and he's beating people up along the way. And so Axel is saying, take care of that guy, get him out of here, get him out of here. Nobody's doing anything about it, of course, because he works for the local security company. So we didn't know that. We just saw that they weren't doing anything. So now he's making his way, and he's almost right up to the stage.
He's just being a real dick.
Absolutely. Well, he's beating up people to get
for no reason, really.
Well, to get a better seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Axel gets closer, and he gets closer and closer to the stage, and Axel's like, finally he goes, wait a second, we have no camera policy. Axel in his head. Maybe that'll get local security to react. And so he says, he's got a camera, go take care of it. They don't do anything. So that's why people think that it was over a camera. It had nothing to do with the camera. It was the fact that he was beating people up.
Right. And then he did jump in the crowd, though.
Axel did jump in the crowd, yeah.
But then we had.
What's going through your mind when this is happening, though? Like,
are you off? Are you just off stage? Then what are you doing during the show?
Yeah,
you have
I'm
your
always
eyes
stage
on
left.
everything?
I'm always stage left. Yeah, because he can come over and tell me what's going on. But so then I had the band lined up, ready to go back on, and the promoter, Steve Shankman, told me to go fuck myself.
He's the local guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go fuck myself. You've already done enough. Get your band and get out of here.
Well, that's his fault then.
For the riot.
You tried to go back on, but people assumed, well, they rioted because Guns N' Roses refused to play after that. You tried to play, but they wouldn't let you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, so that's one real story. Now the other real story. Now this motherfucker loves Metallica the way I love Guns N' Roses.
I love.
Are we going after Lars? Are we going after Lars? Okay.
He's my least favorite.
Yeah, for a reason.
I'm a James guy. Okay?
Yeah, okay. I like James. Yeah.
I'm a James guy.
Montreal, and what was it? Was August 8th, 1992.
Yeah.
And of course at Arrowhead,
a couple weeks later.
I
was there as well.
Body Count, Metallica, then Guns N' Roses concert.
I didn't make it for Body Count. Late arrival.
I made it for all of it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so there was a riot there.
Yep.
There was James Hetfield was badly injured.
Yeah.
Scary. That's your worst nightmare as a tour manager is to see some shit like that. Or security tour manager, anything is to see someone get hurt on stage.
Yeah.
So that's fucking awful.
Absolutely.
What happened? What's the real story that happened there?
So we had 3 weeks off before the Montreal because of Axel's pipes. So our very first concert back. And so during those 3 weeks off, I had designed the stage. I designed every one of Guns N' Roses stages. And there was metal grating so I could do lighting and pyro cues from underneath the stage. So I had the monitors, which is how the band hear themselves, up on top of the stage. So without any of us knowing, Lars instructed his production manager to take our entire stage set to San Francisco. And because he was upset that the first 10 rows couldn't see him.
Of course.
Yeah, so he had the wedges put underneath, and it changed the pyro cues. Didn't tell anybody. He blew his own guy up.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about that.
So the hard part when you're doing a big thing like that is that was a Guns N' Roses went on last every night, but it was a co-headlining situation.
I didn't want it to be that way, but that's one of the.
Well, that also gave Axel time to warm up. Be ready.
Well, my whole thought process was get Axel to have to go on stage before Metallica.
And then you could do it. But when you're trying to deal with a huge stage where you got the two biggest bands in the world at the time trying to do the work together, that's hard. But the communication is the key in any business, and the communication wasn't there on Lars's part.
Right.
The scary part that people get mad about, or whatever the legend is.
Yeah.
So Metallica can't play because they're guys at the hospital.
Right, yeah.
And I've seen Lars bitch and complain and say all Guns N' Roses had to do was come out there and do a great set, and they would have saved the day. So he puts all the blame. So now let's throw Lars Ulrich under the bus.
Yeah, well, I mean, he also knows that Axel has a 4-hour prep time, and so I call Axel the hotel, and he's, dude, I mean, Doug, I'll do the very best I can, but. I'm just getting started. It's like, well, do what you can, get here as soon as you can, right? And so he got there as soon as he could,
right?
Given his 4-hour prep time.
And was he good enough for the fans of Montreal?
No, well, the problem was his pipes were still shot.
Yeah.
So he comes out on stage and starts to sing.
It's not working the way he wants.
He comes over to me literally midway through the first song, goes, I can't. What do you want me to do? I mean, you couldn't even talk.
See, where's your fucking tape now? That's when you get to lip sync the whole thing, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Milli Vanilli, like everyone else.
Milli Vanilli your way through.
Do the whole thing like that.
And the next month they're at Arrowhead Stadium. That was September 17th, 1992.
We were both at that. We didn't know each other. He's a young child at that point. Right, I was a college graduate, I think, by that.
I was in college up in St. Joe, and I came down for the concert.
And it was a great night because that was like maybe the 4th or 5th time I'd seen Metallica.
Okay.
But it was the first time I'd gotten to see Guns N' Roses.
And the 4th or 5th time you'd seen a woman's boobs.
I saw a lot of boobs that night.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah.
There was
got to eat away that time.
It seemed was there a large gap most nights because of Axel's warm up time?
Yeah.
And so they had closed circuit in there.
It didn't actually start on that tour. It actually started before that when we were at the arenas and Soundgarden would play or Skid Row would play, and then there's that lull
in between. Right? And then this is 1992, and all the whatever girls are out there, and they put them on, and then first and then the first one shows their boobies, and then everyone else is going to show. So everyone's just like,
it was
do I really want Guns N' Roses to come out? Is this going to stop?
I showed mine, but nobody
cared.
No, nobody cared.
But so the interesting part for me is what I remember about that show. The show was great. Both bands were fucking awesome, and James Hetfield was singing but couldn't play guitar because his arm.
That's
was
right.
So their guitar tech, amazing. He was in Metal Church, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
So dude could play because it's not easy to play James Hetfield's stuff.
Yeah.
And so their guitar tech played the rhythm guitar, and James just sang.
Right.
So it was a unique way to see him. I'll say something nice about Metallica. The first time I saw Metallica was 1986, opening act for Ozzy here in Kansas City on the Ultimate Sin Tour, which actually they shot that concert for the VHS of the Ultimate Sin Tour.
VHS, all right, yeah.
And I'd never heard of Metallica in my life.
Right.
1986, Master of Puppets was out. They'd already had 2 records.
Right.
I didn't know, never heard of them. The ticket, I still have at home, doesn't say there's an opening act. It says An Evening with Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, wow.
So they were just like...
That's thanks to Sharon, probably.
Right, yeah. So my brother and I get there, and this is just like the Guns N' Roses experience Stephen had. We get there, and I don't know who's the opening act is. But there's all these fucking people gathered around the merch table buying these shirts with a knife coming out of a toilet that says "Metal Up Your Ass."
That's right.
Metallica.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, this is a little severe.
And then Todd fell in love. Like, I'd like to throw some metal up my ass.
Even at that point, I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So Cliff Burton is still alive.
Okay.
He didn't die till later that summer when they're over in Europe.
Yeah.
So they come out and they start playing, and it's fucking unbelievable. And all these people around us knew the words to the songs.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, that would be like an Aerosmith fan being at the Guns N' Roses thing, and everyone's going, how do they know the words to these songs? And I'm like, I think we're missing out on something.
I fucking knew you turned this into a Metallica.
No, I'm just saying.
It is.
But that's what I love. That's why you should always go watch the opening act. Because you don't know what you're going to get.
And I will tell you,
on the opening
times
act.
that I did drive the bus, Master of Puppets was what I listened to when I was driving.
It's a good driving music. But
absolutely.
That's why you should always go watch the opening act. You don't know when you're going to see the next Guns N' Roses or Metallica who doesn't get their name on the fucking ticket.
I need one more story from you.
Yeah, dude.
Bogota.
Bogota. Yeah, Bogota. That was a lot of fun.
What the fuck?
Yeah, well, so it was literally the only stop the entire tour where I demanded to have all the money up front. 2 concerts. I'm not even
American?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you just played Venezuela.
Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
so
which
there
has
was
gotten
a coup
worse since
attempt.
then, maybe. Yeah,
It was a coup
that's wild.
attempt in Venezuela, and so we made it out, the band, Entourage, but the gear didn't. And so I land, and the guys that are promoting my concert in Bogota, one runs the radio station, one runs the television station, one runs the newspaper. Good luck getting my side of the story out, right? It's not going to happen. So they tell me, we're supposed to play Friday, Saturday. My gear's not going to make it for the Friday. So I said, we'll play Saturday, Sunday. No, kiss my ass. You got to play, one show and give us half the money back. So I'm not giving you money back.
We got the money. Fuck you.
Yeah. So long story short, they decided to just go ahead and play the one show, and I could keep all the money. Well, they oversold it by 30,000 tickets.
Shit.
These shows down there, when someone like Guns N' Roses comes to a country where they don't get shows, this is like
It's
a
incredible.
religious thing
for
them.
Yeah. In fact, so Bogota. So the next morning, guy shows up at my door, bang, 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 about 7 o'clock. I open the door, and he hands me a letter in Spanish, which, I speak and read Spanish.
Right.
So I read it, and it says, you have a mandatory meeting with the mayor at 3 o'clock. And I said, as soon as Mr. Goldstein gets back, I'll let him know.
Right.
And so I shut the door, and I called, I had hired U.S. Embassy security, and so I called this guy over, and I said, John, what does that say? And he said, it says you have a meeting. I said, I know what the fuck it says. I said, there's no meeting.
But what does it say?
Yeah.
What does this mean?
He goes, yeah, there's no mating. And I said, it's time to leave. He said, yeah, like
Let's
now.
go.
So
fuck.
So because we're in
charter a jet?
Bogota, some of the guys that didn't have to wake up, they were still awake, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot to do there.
Oh yeah. There was a lot to do there. Yeah.
I mean,
So how do you get the word
Escobar
out
was
that
still-
we're out of town here? We're gone. I mean, you
Gone.
can't group text everyone.
are you?
no, yeah.
How do you gather this fucking
like
crew
Hanging
up to
on
get out?
doors. We're out. Let's go.
But it appears to me like you're not a guy that scares easily.
No, not at all.
But in that situation, are you like
You're not- you're out of your element, right?
Oh shit, we're in
No, I
Bogota.
just knew it was time to go.
Yeah,
You got a feeling.
Yeah, just
this is not
feeling.
for us.
Well, he stuck a machine gun right in my chest. Yeah, that's
Hello, sir.
That's a cold feeling right in
So-
your chest. Yeah.
Managing Guns, we talked before we started here,
Yeah.
because I like the business of these things.
Yeah.
You did a great job of getting a true record deal where your artist wouldn't get fucked over by a record company.
Yes, sir.
Take us through kind of the evolution of, like, what was Guns N' Roses making on Appetite per unit or per whatever to what you were able to get them.
It was a new
down the
artist.
road.
It was a new artist deal. So basically, every $10 that came into Geffen Records, we'd be making $1.30 to $1.50 tops. And it had a lot to do with where we were when I decided to negotiate it. I mean, we're at the time the biggest band in the world. But David Geffen had told the Aerosmith guys, the Whitesnake guys, a number of bands, kiss off. We're not going to renegotiate your contract.
Because you could.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And so 'cause he didn't have to renegotiate with me. We were under obligation for 7 albums. And so, but same day as the St. Louis riot, actually, I had to fly back to New York and meet with him at his penthouse. And first he told me to go fuck myself and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, I negotiated a deal which at the time was the largest recording deal in the history of music, $3.50 per 10. So
2.5 times.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
What-
if they were at $1.50 and I took them up, to
So you get that, and that's, at the time, we're talking about $10 was whatever it was. A CD was $16
$10
or something.
No,
or
it's 10
getting
bucks when I
down
did
to
it.
that $10 range.
Yeah.
Cassettes were similar. You could still sell cassettes and CDs and all
Sure.
that stuff. And it wasn't long after that what year? So people, I think artists deserve the money. They made the songs.
Yeah,
I get
I
you
agree.
can't do this stuff without the record company distributing and all that shit. But David Geffen would never have a penny without someone making music.
It was kind of my point, and he didn't necessarily agree with me about that. His thought was, I could find a number of Guns N' Roses.
There are horror stories of people selling tens of millions of records who don't have a fucking penny.
Absolutely.
Because the record companies not only would, not give them as much money for the record, they would also charge them money for marketing.
Yeah.
For recording.
Yeah. Well, it's
hey,
funny
stay
when
in the
you-
studio for a month. It's not a problem. And then they end up
yeah.
having to pay for the time. They think, we'll just sit here and fucking do this.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. You really find out a lot when you do a forensic accounting right? All of a sudden, it's here's $2 million that we didn't find before,
Right.
Because they're afraid you're going to find out about it and sue them. So all of a sudden, when you do a forensic accounting, to see what's really owed, all these checks start showing up. It's pretty interesting.
So when Axel Rose
Yeah.
is shitbags of money, right?
Yeah.
And
W. Axel Rose.
That'd be W.
Yeah, it's
period.
exactly
Bill
right.
Bailey,
Thank
W.
you.
Period.
right?
That's right.
W. Period.
Slash.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of money still.
Yeah. Duff McKagan has more money than anybody else in the band.
Does he? So has he been
question.
smart with his money?
Well,
What has
yeah.
he done?
I mean, if you read his book, he'll tell you that he did it all. The reality is, myself and the same business manager that I mentioned that Axel and I, when Axel bought his house, him and I sat with Duff early stages and said, it's time for you to invest money. What do you care about? And he said Seattle. And so we
it's his hometown.
Yeah, so we picked 2 stocks for him. We picked,
Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft and Starbucks.
Wow.
Yeah, he did okay.
Shit.
So how rewarding is that for you? Because I think it would have to be, you'd feel like a big piece of shit as a manager if your people.
If I put them in the chia pet?
Yeah, I mean, if your
Amway,
guys
too late.
lost all their money, I mean, it's not your
Oh,
responsibility that you can't stop someone from going and buying Lamborghinis and shit.
Sure.
You can advise them and say that it's got to feel good for you that these guys have got maybe not as much money as they should have, but they all still got it. I mean, does Izzy still get money, royalty checks if someone
absolutely.
goes to buy something?
Oh, sure he does. Absolutely. Yeah. Just because you're out of the band, if you wrote the music, you still get paid. In fact, when I did that recording deal, the only guy who would call me and thank me was Izzy. He'd go, so I used to be able to buy 1 motorcycle, now I can buy 4. Thank you.
Clearly, we're going to have to invite you back because we're going along here. But
Cool, yeah. Anytime.
So many great stories.
Yeah.
So Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I'm in college. I remember we stood in fucking line just to get the fucking
A lot of people did. That's
separately.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Midnight Cell, by
that was
the way.
a big fucking deal. But
Yeah,
it seemed
sure.
like it took forever. I actually got blamed for that as well.
Right.
And then I'm
it's Goldstein's fault.
and don't you
That's
say
right, it
a
was all my
fucking
fault.
word.
That's right, Todd.
And I also love Chinese democracy. People can shit on that if they want. And I saw
Where would you rank that
GNR
in this hierarchy?
up your ass is where I rank it. When they came back to Sprint Center
Yeah.
in 2011, 2013 at Midland,
We
2016
enjoyed
at
Guns N'
Arrowhead.
Roses on my birthday in
Right.
Miami at the Super Bowl.
And we saw
2 years ago.
We saw when the
right
Chiefs
on.
won the Super Bowl. They played.
Very cool.
Snoop Dogg opened up for Guns N' Roses.
We didn't get there in time for that either.
But
We last 20 seconds.
so and I told you November Rain, Don't
Yep.
Cry,
Yep.
Estranged, those 3 videos kind of go together.
Sure.
What was that like waiting for those 2 albums to be released because the whole world was waiting and it seemed like for fucking ever for those to come out and they were wonderful, but what was that period like?
To be honest with you, we could have used the break. We did the Appetite Tour, and that lasted
time.
close to 2 years. So, and the drug stuff was so rampant during the Use Your Illusion recording process that it kind of gave me the time to really work on Slash and get him where he needed to be. I lost Steven along the way. The guy that I
So
feel
you go to the studio and stuff during the recording of this?
yeah, only
Some?
fast. I didn't spend a whole lot of time at the studio, and because of their working environment, I wouldn't want them in my office looking over my shoulder. Right,
Right.
when I'm working on my Mac, it's like get the fuck out of here. Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't really bother them much unless they called me down. Hey, we want you to check something out.
And you knocking on heaven's door.
Oh, yeah.
What's the funny story about you and
Yeah,
that
so everybody except for me was in on it when the very first concert we played with Matt Sorum. It was his first concert ever, and it was Dizzy Reed's first concert ever. It was Rock in Rio, 1990. And so we show up, and everybody in the band and crew are in on it except for me. And so I'm standing on stage left, and during the sing-along part, Axel comes over and he grabs me around the neck and sticks the mic in my face, and I have to sing "Knock, knock, knock on Heaven's Door." Which,
How's your range? Good?
Horrible.
No? Not good?
Yeah, well, my range is good for cooking stuff on top of it. But,
not that for the singing?
Not that range.
So how did your time with Guns N' Roses come to an end?
I retired to be a dad. It was during Chinese democracy, and I'm watching as much money as I made. I was also watching it go out the door. And so my kids moved with my first wife over to Hawaii in 2002. And so literally every Friday night I was on a plane from LAX over to Kona and for 2 years. And so finally I called Axel. I said, look, man, I
can't do this.
I'm missing my kids, something sick. And I said, Shep Gordon's been managing Alice Cooper from Maui for 30 years without a contract. I can do this from Hawaii. And he said, no, I need you in L.A. And I said, well, now you're a bigger baby than my 3.5-year-old. I quit.
And now, but your son is in the music business.
Yeah,
Tell
thank you.
us about that.
Yeah, Jake. He called me about 8 years ago. Hey, Dad, I'm starting a band. It's right on, dude. That's what I do for a living. He said, no, Dad. He said, I don't want to be known as the kid that rode the Guns N' Roses coattails. And I said, so what are you saying? He said, I don't want your help. Nothing. So he got signed. The band's called Honey, Hunny, like Winnie the Pooh spells honey.
That's right.
He got signed to Epitaph Records, and they sound a lot like The Cure. Really good band,
But they're doing well.
They're doing really well. Yeah, they're selling out all their shows, and they're kind of playing, theaters and little smaller clubs and theaters.
Are you happy that he's in the music business? Was there a time like
absolutely?
So
man.
you don't have any reservations about it?
He called me about 4 years ago and said, Dad, everybody's telling me I need a plan B. And I said, son, can I be honest with you? I said, as long as I'm alive, you don't need a fucking plan B.
Right. Boom.
Do not ever give up your dream, right? If your dream is to make it in music, then go do it, right? I don't care if I got to, Uber, and I don't care. Whatever it takes, go chase your dream. Don't ever have a plan B.
I love that you say that because this, of course, is on a much smaller scale. I could tell the story about how I got into radio, and it was nuts. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a plan B. This was it.
Good.
And I just decided
you got fired from 19 jobs
right.
over 3.
But
I tell those stories.
But
too.
I've got to fucking make it.
Yeah.
And I got to a certain point where I had a little boy. This is it. I got to I didn't give myself an option.
Yeah.
And now my oldest son is a local musician.
That's
working
right.
hard.
Yeah, Richie.
And I've told him.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
This is it. Make up your fucking mind that you're going to do this, and that's what he does. And hopefully he's going to have that type of success story. He's making his way. But so that's good advice, and that's something that you said to your son. Don't fucking have a plan B.
Don't have a plan B.
This is your life. This is your love. This is your dream.
Yeah.
You fucking make it happen.
Well, that's right. You got one life to live, man. You might as well do what you want to do.
Is the music business better to get into now than it was in 1991?
No, it's actually much more difficult.
Way worse?
Yeah, way worse. Yeah, I mean, obviously with the advent of Spotify and all that, it really took away a great source of income. But that's why ticket prices are what they are.
Right.
To kind of offset that. But
and you don't fuck around on the road. You better be good when you go out there. Because that's where you make your money.
Absolutely.
You got to go out there and you got to put a real show on.
Yeah.
You got to be sound fucking great.
Yeah, sure.
Because you can't make $3.50 per $10.
That's exactly right.
Anymore.
Exactly
so
right.
the tickets are expensive, but the shows are great. I think the shows are so good now.
It used to be, like when I was reading Duff's book, he talks about making no money on the tour. First off, that's a falsehood. I mean, they made a boatload of freaking money, right? But it was different back then. You're touring to sell records. Now you give away music to sell tickets.
To go sell tickets. It's all flipped.
Completely flipped. Yeah.
Do you and who know? I don't know how you left it, but do you still talk to Axel at all? Is that still
no? The last time I spoke to him was right before the reunion tour. I didn't know they were going to do a reunion tour,
right?
And I did a podcast, and I was saying really nice things about him.
Right.
And then I got a call from his attorney saying, if you ever speak on behalf of my client again, we're going to sue you. And I said, well, hang on a second. I said, well,
are we getting you in trouble right now?
No, hell no.
Okay.
I said, you've got a ESQ behind your name. I don't have one of those. I said, but I think right in Attorney 101. My First Amendment rights trump your bullshit threat, so go fuck yourself, lose my number.
Yeah.
So Axel calls me about 10 minutes later. He goes, hey, dude, I heard the podcast. Thank you very much, but you know how I feel about people saying positive things about me. I said, okay. He goes,
shit.
yeah, oh, yeah. He goes, I'm trying to repair some past relationships, and I got it, and it was Slash. And he said, so, please just don't say anything on my behalf. I said, no problem. So once they got back together, I felt like, you know what, I'm going back doing what I did before, which is dispel the myths about Axel being a shit.
Well, these are your stories, too. Shit you lived with.
Of course, yeah.
So two questions before we wrap up. Number one, so for people that have this misconception about Axl Rose, what would you who's the real guy? What's the real guy? If people knew what you know about Axl Rose, because I look at him as a musical genius. That's a soundtrack of my youth, and I defend him all the time.
How about the soundtrack of your
the
adult
soundtrack
life?
of my beard?
How about your life?
But so
it's one of the best friends you could ever ask for.
Because you hear a lot of bullshit about him, and I'm sure it
one of the
bothers you.
best friends you could ever ask for. I could trust him with stuff in my personal life and know that it would never go any further, which I did. I could trust him with my business stuff. He's just the best friend that you could ever ask for.
Do do you ever miss the music? Because I'm sure there was glory and money, but it sounds like a lot of bullshit you had to deal with as well. Do you ever miss it?
You know what? I mean, it's funny. I've always handled stress really not a problem. In fact, I was talking to my current boss, and he was saying, don't burn out. There's a lot of stress here. And I'm thinking,
dude,
what are
man.
you fucking
You had a machine gun in my chest.
kidding me? Yeah, exactly.
Columbia.
You can handle this, right?
I think I got this,
You can
right?
handle Window Nation.
Exactly.
But for you, I mean, I'm sure that this has been brought up to you before. They could be a fucking movie, like just your story.
Yeah.
Your story as a security.
Yeah.
And I mean, all these different. Have you ever thought? I mean, do you want to write a book? Or
I'm actually in the
any of that
process of
stuff?
writing a book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, me and a guy that I do podcasts with, and that's kind of how he's never written a book before, but we became really good friends. Brandon Weisler, he has on iHeartRadio, he's got something called Appetite for Distortion, and guy, I think he's on close to his 300th episode. But a really sweet guy, and so him and I've been working on a book for a while now. We're pretty close to
fucking
wrapping it up.
awesome.
Yeah, it's all GNR stuff. It has very little to do with anything outside of GNR.
No fucking air supply.
No, I know. Yeah,
Come on, man.
Stop throwing them granny
Right.
panties up there.
Yeah.
That's
Can we
right,
get you to
Todd.
come back on the podcast
Anytime,
again?
Stephen? You know that. Yes, sir.
What do you listen to right now? Like, what do you enjoy? What music is your music right now?
You know what? I mean, I'm all over the map, man. I mean,
Go ahead,
I
tell
really
us
am.
some. We love them. What's new out there we should listen to besides Honey?
Yeah,
Everyone
right.
listen to Honey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Can I get Honey on like Spotify and Apple Music?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm gonna-
yeah.
You don't have to-
H-U-N-N-Y.
You don't have to like anything that's new. It's just if you still listen to the old stuff, like what's...
Well, yeah. I mean, I listen to a lot of older. I love Zeppelin. I love the Beatles. I mean, Beatles are my band, really. I mean, if you got to, who?
What did you think of the Get
influenced me?
Back documentary?
Oh yeah, fantastic! Yeah,
Fucking unbelievable.
I like anything they did. I mean, who had the wherewithal to make Hard Day's Night and Meet the Beatles? Those movies were fucking awesome.
This documentary is amazing to watch what they are doing.
Oh, yeah.
Actually creating songs that we still know 50 years later.
Absolutely.
And there's video and audio of them
Yeah,
doing it. It's
yeah.
fucking incredible.
And now you're in Kansas City.
And I'm in KC, and I love it here, by the way.
And you're a Chiefs fan.
Oh, I love it. Love
you,
the Chiefs,
You love
yeah.
Kansas City, and
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
look forward to having you on again soon.
Steve and I lived in Houston, Memphis, and St. Louis. All think they have the best barbecue. I laugh. I laugh.
that's Wrong right.
again.
I laugh.
And I'm sure we're trying to get you acclimated to the Mexican food here, which it ain't bad.
Dude, I told you, El Pueblito.
Right.
I went to El Pueblito
That's
the other
exactly
day.
right.
Yeah.
Doug, thank you so much for the
Thank you,
time.
buddy.
And of course, Window Nation, a wonderful partner of Sports Radio 810 WHB and the Border Patrol. I could ask you questions all day. I know it by Todd looking at his fucking watch.
I'm
and
watching Honey.
15
I got
fucking
Honey.
times.
There you go.
I'm going to listen to
That's
Honey.
Doug Goldstein. That's Todd Lebo. Guns N' Roses, the greatest rock and roll band fucking ever, so fuck you. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Hot Mic with SSJ. Until next week, the microphone is off.